Yeah, oh, yeah.
Leela Bullock.
Yes. We're
Welcome to the show,
live.
Leela. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for doing this, Leela. Leela is, I believe, the founder at Magnificent Minds Coaching, um, and she's a business coach, and she's working with a lot of B2B businesses, helping them with not just coaching. Leela, correct me if I'm wrong. You're doing a whole bunch of stuff. With the B2B businesses where you're helping them out with marketing strategy, working on a lot on the content side. You're also doing work on the SEO side and a lot of mentorship for small business owners, agency owners, and people like that. Did I get it right?
Yes, you did. My background is agencies, so I've run and sold agencies for digital marketing and PR. So I apply all my learnings, what I've learned over the last, I'm going to show my age now, but nearly 19 years of being businesses. So there we go. Yes.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And yeah, my journey is similar. I started out in agency back in Calgary, and now we're at RepStack, which is providing human resources for agencies, digital marketing agencies, and SaaS companies. But it's interesting that you bring that up because we have very similar backgrounds. I'd love to dive a little bit into your work
Mm.
experience. How did you get started? I think you're from UK. You have a very we kind of talked on the sidelines about our locations right now. We'll get to that in a little bit. But why don't you start out a little bit and tell us how did you get started? Like where is your education in? What fields? And how did you get into the agency world?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Bit of a long story. I'll try and summarize. So I started nearly 19 years ago. I was working as a training manager, and my company wouldn't let me go part time when I had my daughter. So it incentivized me to start up on my own. And I started as a virtual PA. I created a virtual PA business, and that was 19 years ago when there wasn't many
Wow.
virtual PAs.
Wow.
Um, yeah. And the business grew. And within 2 years, I had offices, I had staff. I'd been to Downing Street for Best Mompreneur of the Year. And I successfully sold that business. I then, social media had started, and I then decided to invest quite a lot of money into a tool, a social media marketing tool. It didn't pan out. That's another story for another time. But what it did do was it catapulted me into the social media world. I was an early adopter of Twitter,
Hmm.
and I then launched a social media digital marketing agency and became an influencer. So I started speaking all over the world and teaching and talking about best practices for social media. Um, the digital marketing evolved quite a lot, and eventually I was doing a lot of online PR because I was getting featured in publications like Forbes and places like that. Other companies started to ask me to get them featured in, and so I decided, okay, I'll start offering this as a service. So everything kind of evolved,
Hmm.
and throughout all this time, I've always provided coaching and consulting because people always ask, well, can you help me do it? So yeah, so that's kind of it in a nutshell, really.
That's awesome. So some amazing businesses that you started, and the virtual PA business is very interesting. I'm going to
Mm.
pick your brains on that as well. But that basically started that when the virtual was people didn't even know what work from home was and what a remote,
Yeah. It was
right?
it was a it, and it just highlights. I think business is all about timing. I
Hmm.
couldn't duplicate the success that I've had today because
Hmm.
it's so saturated and so competitive. And I think it's like for people who are watching now, be kind to yourself because there's so many people who are very successful today. And if they had to do it because they started, they got the timing right,
Hmm.
to create the influencer status that I did I couldn't do that today. You know, I just happened to be at the start of something. And yes, I worked hard, but I do think that timing is a really integral thing, which a lot of people don't talk about a lot in success. And I think particularly today, we have to work that much harder, smarter, and be more resilient than ever before.
I think timing, that's such a great point that you bring up. Timing is everything. Just look at your virtual PA business. You started out before, almost like in a blue ocean where, there weren't very many competitors.
I
And
had
you
no
were
competitors. Yeah, it was
able
brilliant.
to easily exit that business,
Yeah,
and for us, going into RepStack, it's a very similar story that we were working, and I was operating my own agency, and we and every coaching group that I went to, we realized that there's options for virtual assistants who you can get from Philippines, India, Pakistan, but you were really on your own. There weren't really any managed VA services, and I think the timing was like really really perfect for us as well, because we only focused on digital marketing agencies. We only focused on roles that were these were like really client facing roles, like account manager, sales development reps, some marketing associates, where we tried to stay away from fulfillments, because there's amazing people who are doing fulfillment like you, SEO and content writing and things like that. So we tried to focus away from what was being done. And it turned out that, in my agency days, it used to be I'm running behind customers all the time. And if you get the timing right, you can turn it into a business like Leela's, or like, we've been lucky over the last 2 years where we usually have a client waiting list for agency owners to onboard our people. So timing is everything. I am a
yeah.
true believer of that. All right, so right now you're into this coaching, and you're mainly working with digital marketing agencies, or what kind of clientele are you working with right now?
It's really mixed. Because of my background and my network, I seem to attract a wide audience. So it's everyone from solo entrepreneurs to SMEs to charities to big brands as well. So it's anyone who is looking to grow and scale their business, or is perhaps stuck, or who's looking to start out as well. So it's a real variety, but the common theme, everybody has the same challenges and problems, but it's just at different points in their journey.
Yeah, and that's what I want to really talk to you about, and see if maybe we can, somebody listening to us, we can maybe help out with some of your pointers. And the things that we take a look at from time to time, and all the time actually, is number one is marketing. Like, how do I attract customers in through different things, whether I have a big budget or not. And number two is, how do I close those deals, turn them into customers. And then number three is, how do I retain those customers. So let's start with the marketing first. Like, like for somebody who is running a digital marketing agency, for example, or starting out an agency, what would you recommend for them in terms of the core campaigns that they should be running to attract some amazing customers for their agencies, because we all need customers.
We do, we do. So fantastic question. And I think my answer is going to be very different to what it would have been a few years ago, or even 12 months ago. As I said earlier, the market is incredibly saturated and very competitive. And it's probably the most competitive I've ever seen in my nearly 19 years of being in business. So I think the key thing, the most important thing, is to be different to everybody else and actually not do what everyone else is doing. Because I think you have to stand out. You have to be different. You can't be the same, especially if you're new, because otherwise, who are they going to pick? Because everybody, let's be honest, most agencies are very similar. People get very similar results. There's not one agency which is, wow, like, oh my God, they're so much better than the others. Yeah. So I think it's we have to practice what we preach. If you're a digital marketing agency, be so visible, so memorable, so creative, so wowy that people are attracted to you and say, I want you to do what you've done for
Yeah.
you, for me. And that's been my whole approach with my business. People often ask, well, how have you got so much reach, and how to get so visible? And I've always practiced what I preach, which is easier said than done, I know. But I think the key is to be very, very different, and to be aware that you have to do more than everybody else if you want to stay one step ahead of everyone else as well.
I think that's a great answer. And we'd like to say another way of putting that is that we call ourselves digital marketing agencies, but a lot of times we see that we're not even doing the basics that we're going to be doing for our customers.
Yeah.
Like eat your own dog food, right? And
Yes.
and then you also mentioned something which caught my ears, is that be different. Like,
Mm,
what are some of the ways that these agency owners can be different? Because a lot of our customers, how they decide to be different is that they pick out niches. They only work with realtors, for example, or home service companies and things like that. That kind of gives them a differentiation. But is there anything else that people can do to be different and stand out from the rest of the crowd?
yeah, absolutely. Look, I think, having a niche is great, but let's be honest, niching now is so wide. I mean, there's, hundreds of digital marketing agencies, if not thousands, serving each of the different industries. So
Yeah,
niching out, 5 years ago was really great advice, and it
yeah,
worked. But
yeah.
today it doesn't work. It's just not strong enough. So I
Mm,
think you have to be incredibly visible, and I think content plays a huge role in it. You have to be creating high value content which resonates, um, and just being different, being very creative, thinking of ways where you can attract people, and as I said, be really memorable. Because if someone's speaking or looking for a digital marketing agency, how are
mm,
they going to remember you? Because years ago, you'd go to a networking event. I can remember I'd have a Rolodex of business cards, and there'd
mm,
be 3 or 4 people, and you'd put them out, and you'd remember them, and you'd put a little note on the back when you met someone, and
mm,
then you just reach out to them. So you had a very small choice, and you could remember everyone. Whereas today, if you think on LinkedIn, if you're connecting with hundreds of people daily, you
yeah.
can't remember somebody. So you have to think of ways where you can be memorable and stand out, and not be afraid to be perhaps a little bit controversial, a little bit honest and transparent, and not play safe. I think that's key today. You
Yeah.
have to
Don't
be
be afraid to slap around virtually a little bit and kind of knock some sense into the person
yes.
that you're trying to talk to. And yeah, I think that's a great advice, right? Like, just don't give the same old answers that everyone's given. Be visible, like you said, by publishing value added content. And this is not content that, just people are, I'm assuming that, you can get somebody for $3 an hour on Fiverr to do and just pump it out for
Mhm.
SEO. This should actually make an impact on the people that you're trying to help out, right? Like, it should, if they read that article or see that video or listen to that podcast, should actually have some kind of impact on the people that you're trying to help out.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the best way to do it, which a lot of agencies and in general business owners are scared to do, is to literally give them pretty much as you can without physically doing the work for free.
Mm,
So give
mm,
away all your secrets. So tell people how they can get more
mm,
followers, more reach, etc. Tell people how they can get more visibility on their website, and
mm,
show them how to do it. And
mm,
then the people who don't want to do it themselves, or don't have the time, or realize that actually you're way better than I am at it, then they're going to be attracted and want to work with you.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's really genuine human psychology, where, if you're helping people out genuinely, they're going to be
Mm,
attracted towards you, right? Like, you're giving them free advice, you're going on to groups and answering questions, really actively helping them out, producing content that actually helps get things done without you getting that contract maybe. And the right people are actually going to reach out to you, and they're going to be like, man, I give up, it's taking too much of my time, I need to run my business, you come in and take care of this. So I think that's one of the best advices that I've heard, and you really really simplified it for us, right? It's not rocket science. Just
It's
do good
not.
by people, and people will get attracted to you, and and just do a lot of good and be visible. So that's amazing. I think let's
I
move on. Sorry, go.
okay. I was going to add something else as well. Can I
Yeah,
add one more
yeah,
thing?
yeah, of course, of course.
Um, so one more thing is to be super product. What? Not's the word. I was going to say productive, but there's the other word, proactive. That's the word. Thank you.
Proactive. Mhm.
Proactive. And I think so many people are afraid to do that, or don't do enough, or don't realize how much activity is actually needed to
Mm,
obtain clients today. And the
mm,
reality is, as I said, is that we need more touch points now, more outreach now, more
mm,
conversations now than we
mm,
did 6 months ago, let alone a year ago. And I
mm,
think it's really about knowing your numbers. How many people do you need to talk to every day to get a client? How many
mm.
people do you need to, so when you know that information, it's much easier for you to go about your customer acquisition. So know your numbers and do more than everybody else is doing.
That's a great point. Just put together a list that these are the number of touch points or outreach that you have to do on a daily basis. And reverse engineer the number of deals you need on the marketing side, and
Mm-hmm.
simplify it. And that's completely true. Anytime I have something written down for myself, like even on the monthly billing side, right? Like the bills through the roof, and I write it down at the start of every single month that these are the 10 payments that I have to make. Miraculously every month it happens that those bills get,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
I miss
totally.
out on it, some most of those would also get missed, me making those payments with my travel schedule and all of that stuff. So write it out, simplify it, reverse engineer it, and then don't underestimate the amount of activity that you're going to have to do.
Exactly. And also, talking of numbers, you have to be prepared that they're going to change. So, for example, when I was doing LinkedIn outreach, I could send 100 messages, and for each 100 messages, I would get someone who'd want a call. And then for 3 to 5 calls, I would close a sale. Whereas
Hmm.
now, I need to send more than 100 messages. So the conversion process is getting longer, unfortunately. It's
Hmm.
just the nature of the world we're in right now. But it's
Hmm.
knowing those numbers and being really tight and hot with those numbers so
Hmm.
that you don't lose hope or faith, and also so that you can scale it up as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Scaling up, and are you doing all your outreach yourself, or do you have a team that helps you out? How does that marketing side work for you right now?
So sometimes I use a team, sometimes I have in-house, and sometimes I do it myself. So it really depends if it's for myself or if it's for clients, or what I'm doing at that particular time. So
But
for
a strategy of
myself, oh, go on, sorry.
a mix and match strategy of in-house, outsource, yourself, all of that kind of works all together for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then, so let's switch gears a little bit and come on the sales side a little bit.
Mhm.
So now we've attracted all these customers. How does that process look like? Taking that client who's raised their hand that, hey, I'm interested, I need help, and taking them through your sales process and converting them into a paying customer. Like, what's the easiest way of going about that?
So I think it's really, really important to qualify as much as possible. And a lot of people are afraid to ask what people's budgets are and how much money they have to invest. It's one
Hmm.
of the questions that I always ask. I have like a form when someone books a call with me. There's a form they have to fill out questions and provide information. For
Hmm.
me, that really helps me qualify how committed they are, how interested they are.
Hmm.
Um, so I've got a rough idea before I go on a call, and I can decide whether I want to have a call with them or not as
Hmm.
well. I think the whole pricing thing is a very interesting thing. Sometimes it helps to share prices before you have calls. Sometimes it helps not to. So I think it really does vary depending on your industry, who you're targeting, that sort of thing. But I think once I have them on a call, it's getting to know them, understanding what their goals are, what their expectations are. Can I deliver? And can I meet those expectations? And then from there, if they want to move forwards, then we move forwards. I don't do proposals anymore. I used to do proposals years ago. I stopped doing proposals. Sometimes I'll do an email follow-up with what we've discussed. Sometimes I'll close them on the call. Sometimes I'll book another call in with them, like a decision call, and go from there. And then I start, if we don't have a decision call, then we do like a follow-up process where I email or call them to get an answer. My role with calls or just closing whatever is to get a decision, whether that's yes, no, or maybe, and then follow up in a few months' time.
Put them in a funnel that's appropriate. So that sounds like you've kind of like really, really simplified this thing. Like, most of people who are starting out or who are not as comfortable with closing deals, they wouldn't know, like you're talking about it, that, it's just, you get these people to fill out the form, and it really is that simple, I think, right? Like once you understand somebody's needs, then you kind of match them. Can you even deliver? If you can, they should be able to trust you, and getting that decision on that call shouldn't be that hard. So it's usually like, looks like it's usually one or two calls maximum where you're able to just close the deal and move forward from there.
So again, it really, really depends. I've one business where I've not even had calls, and it's just all done via email, which I love. That's my favorite. Not because I don't like calls, but just because it just expedites the process a little bit. Not always. Everybody's very different, and I find that the bigger the company, the more decisions and the more people are involved. So that can be a bit of a longer process. When that happens, it's really important to understand what the process is. So don't be afraid to ask, is there anyone else on the call? What's your process? How, what's your time scale? Because even though they may want to start immediately or next month, it may be that because there's a board of people, depending on the size of the company, etc., which can slow down the process or break the process at a certain point. So it's really important that you understand, especially when you're working with bigger companies as well. So that's really my process.
I think a couple of points that like really stand out to me is that, don't be afraid of asking the right questions, and then listening to them, like, is this even going to work out? But asking those questions, and sometimes we think that, for example, you mentioned that it's really important to find out what their budget is, and like we don't want to come across rude, like, tell me how much sales you do. There's ways of asking that question. If you're like if you're a little bit seasoned, then you'd be able to ask that question directly if you've built out rapport, or you can just go around it and just ask them, how big of a company do you have, how many employees do you have. There's other ways of skinning the cat, so to speak.
I ask all of that before. So as part of the qualifying questions, when they book a call with me, they have to put how many people are, they have to put certain information. And also I test this form. So I'm always changing the form so that it converts and performs better all the time. So sometimes I'll put drop down on a scale of 1 to 10, how committed are you? Or I'll put how much are you, what's your turnover, and with drop downs. And sometimes I'll remove that. So I'm always testing, I'm always tweaking so that I can consistently improve my qualifying process as well.
Amazing. So pretty straightforward, simple sales process. Once you've closed the deals, obviously now we take the clients, we onboard them, and start delivering on what we promise. So, and the goal is to keep the customers for as long as possible with us using our services. What's your strategies there for long-term retention for a particular client?
So it's very interesting because sometimes I want them to be with me for as long as possible, and other times I don't. And the reason is that a company evolves, and
Mm,
I believe that, and this may go against everything that you say, but I believe that companies shouldn't be with you for years and years. And I think that's a very archaic view of thinking, because when it comes to marketing, companies need fresh eyes. They need
mm,
a new, different perspective. And if you look at the tech space, for example, most
mm,
people are in their job positions for a year, 2 years. Very rare will you get someone being there 3, 5 years and longer. And that's because companies want fresh blood, as it were. They want fresh initiative. And also, when I'm coaching and consulting with people, I want them to be able to take what they've learned, implement it, apply it, and then no longer be reliant on me.
mm,
So I think every client has a shelf life, and I'm very, very aware of that.
mm,
And I maximize that to my potential. You can always upsell, downsell, cross sell, etc.
mm,
But I
mm,
think it's really important for agencies to be aware that you onboard somebody doesn't mean they're going to stay with you for years or even 12 months. I mean, they should stay with you for 6 months, 12 months, hopefully, but you have to be prepared that might not be the best fit. For
mm,
example, when I was doing online PR for companies, when you've exhausted all your connections and you've got some, when you've got them into some of the biggest publications, where else can they go? So
mm,
it may be worthwhile them investing money in a different aspect, perhaps influencer marketing instead of, PR or something like that. So I think digital marketing can be a churn industry.
mm.
Um,
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's a we kind of hit a nerve with a lot of business agency owners who have been marketing agency for some time, and a lot of people that I talk to, it feels like for them that they're just constantly chasing. They're closing deals, they're losing customers, closing deals, losing customers.
mhm,
The way you put it, it's it makes so much sense that if you can just go in and understand the shelf life of your customers, and like whether that's 6 months, 1 year, or 2 years, and then you work towards maximizing that shelf life instead of just trying to keep your customer forever, right? We don't want to
mhm,
keep hostage either, but understanding the shelf life of your customer, and then kind of maximizing your process to make sure that they stay with you for 6 months, and after that they're good to go, and they'll be on to bigger and better things after that if you've done your job properly. So there's nothing wrong with that, and I think many agency owners do not think like that. We have this tendency of thinking that once I close a deal, I got to keep this customer forever with me. you
mhm,
know so I think that's a new way of thinking, and very refreshing, because trust me, I think especially agency owners who've been at it for a little bit, the biggest thing that concerns most of these people is this churn, that like it's a nightmare for most people. And
mhm,
I
mhm,
think the biggest reason is that we haven't figured out that, look, it's okay to have a set period. Okay to have a 1 year contract, and after that not renew it, and just keep new customers coming in and service these people so that you can get referrals, however that works out, and things like that. So a very refreshing outlook on the churn issue that so many agency owners struggle with. That's amazing. Any
thank you.
any parting words that you'd like to share with anyone who's trying to start their agency, or who's been in the agency game and is just not getting that breakthrough that they'd like to get to the next level of making a little bit more money and acquiring more customers or something like that? Whatever you'd like to end the call with, Leela.
Yeah, no, great question. I think just know that you're not alone, and the struggles and challenges that you have, every single agency owner has. They're just not as honest and transparent about it, particularly publicly. And I
Mm,
think it's all about managing expectations. If you understand that a client is only going to be with you a certain time
mm,
frame, see it as a positive, see it as that you've given them amazing results. It doesn't mean that if they're leaving that that they're not happy, often it means, okay, they've achieved that, now it's time to change and do something else. I
Mm,
think it's really, really important as digital agencies that we stay up to date with all the latest trends and see what opportunities there are, particularly with ChatGPT. That's thrown a lot of people out. It's scary, but also
yeah.
exciting. And I think, yeah, just make sure that you're really disciplined, that you're focusing your time on
Mm,
lead generation activities, and that you're attracting the right clients, so that there's nothing worse than attracting the wrong clients as well. That's another problem. A lot of agencies, they love what they do, but they can't stand the clients, or the clients' expectations. They want amazing results in a short period of time, or for not enough money and things like that. So I think getting your expectations right, and timeframes, and being really honest with your clients is very, very important as well.
yeah, those are great pointers. You're not alone. You can work with people like Leela, reach out to, coaches who manage expectations for the clients when you do onboard them, so that, it's, at least whatever that shelf life of that customer is, you maximize that. And really focus on the lead generation, or creating activity in the front of the business, so that you have a full flow of customers coming in. And I think a lot of us do forget this, that you have to be very, very disciplined, like you said, in
Mm-hmm.
order for this to work out. And we've all seen that as soon as we're disciplined, we're working on it consistently, we're able to generate a lot of business. As soon as we drop the ball in any one of these spaces, we tend to go back to zero, and then we have to start. So
Very
so
true.
it's a tough circle. But I think this has been very, very helpful. Where can people reach out, Leela, if people want to get in touch with you?
Sure. So my website's www.lilachbullock.com, and I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. My email is lilachbullock@gmail.com. And yeah, I'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Leela. This was amazing talking to you. Hopefully we'll do this soon sometime again. And I'd love to come down and visit you right now you're in Israel, right?
I am in Israel. So I'm originally from the UK, and I moved here 4 years ago.
4 years ago. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I've been traveling quite a bit, but hopefully my next travels will bring me over there, and we'll get to have a cup of coffee. This is a great,
Welcome.
Leela.
Okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.